Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my studio. I am Kate and I love creating things. I was thinking about this week, I think I create things because I am at heart an artist, and whether it's paint or sculpture or music or now fabric, I just want to make something creative. And it has been an absolute joy to find so many other creators out there who love stitching, which is something I've only come to over the last several months. So thank you for being here and for being part of this community. If you haven't already, you can subscribe down below. If you like this video, I'd love to have you as part of our community. All right, let's get into this. So I am leaving on Friday to go to London, England, which I am very excited about. I haven't been there since college, and that was an increasingly long time ago. So very, very excited. And I decided I needed to bring with me a little fabric journal where I can tuck in mementos from my trip. So I've done this over the last few days. Let me walk you through some parts of it. So I started off with some denim and this hanky because one of my friends, Nan, who I did a video on a couple of days ago, she gave me this, okay? And then I had some other pieces. Actually, this hanky came from my friend, Sherry, who gave me a whole bunch of beautiful little hankies. And I don't want to cut them up, really. So what I do with that kind of thing is I just fold it up to create a pocket, and then use it as a double spread in a journal like this. So it's still complete. And, if in the future someone wanted to use it, they could. So on my outside, I've got this denim, which it just feels fabulous. And then this, let's see, I guess last weekend I went to an estate sale and they had this very tattered, very already partly cut up quilt. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. This baby needed some love. I mean, look at her. You don't want that in your quilt. And it's not even something where I could fix it. So she had a lot of holes, but many of these squares are still totally usable. And there's a bunch of them. They had actually cut this quilt into two pieces, and one was being a tablecloth. The other was for sale for a decent price. So I decided to get this baby because she has many, many beautiful little pieces that can be enjoyed on many different projects. And the first one is my journal. So love how the red just makes it pop. I love red and denim together. They just always look good. Might do some more here, but I have this little piece of a towel that I had that became a little pocket. I've got some doilies. I'll come back to this. Big pockets, because on this retreat, I'm guessing there's going to be lots of paper, and I might even cut it up, and just like if I have quotes or things like that, might tuck them in. And really then this becomes a keepsake. Two more. I kind of went with the idea that doing a little bit of seed stitch, almost running stitch, would be kind of fun, and I like how that turned out. And I sewed this onto something because, as you saw, it's pretty threadbare. So this, I actually just put a patch on this pocket, and then that's nice. Another little napkin that I picked up at that same estate sale as the quilt. This is an already embroidered piece that my friend Nan gave me. Okay. Little cocktail napkin, it was square, so I folded it into an envelope. Isn't that cute? And then I just put a little rosette there, and then I stitched some leaves, so I like that. And then, I don't know about you, but I've got about 1 million of these applique tea towels, and I just like them as decoration. And this one I left, or maybe I didn't. I was going to leave it open. I may have stitched through it. Oh well. I may cut that apart. I don't know. But I don't mind it being from one side. That's fine. Okay, now let me get back to these beautiful flowers. So you will find them on the back. You will find them on the inside. Let me tell you about this fabric. So my daughter bought this dress, and it's really cute on her. But it was about a foot too long because she's not really into tea-length dresses. And so I hemmed it for her. People, I hemmed it on my sewing machine. Let's see, right there. Yes, I sure did. And let me just tell you that I have come to appreciate my sewing machine, but I don't like hand stitching is easier to me, but it was like acres of hem. So I thought, okay, I got to use this. So I did. Now, some deals with the tension of the machine and all that, like my bobbin was exploding and whatever, but I did work it out and I figured it out and I successfully hemmed my daughter's dress. So I was so proud of myself. I cut off some of the flowers from the extra piece of fabric. Isn't this cute fabric? So these little painted flowers, especially this kind, but really all of them are fabulous. So that's in my fabrics now, and I harvested a few of them, and then I thread painted them because I like this fabric, but it was just kind of too busy. I might put one more flower here because 5 odd numbers are always better. We'll see. Or I might put a Suffolk puff or a doily or something else there. And then I put some of the bigger ones on the back of my journal. And I just think it makes it, you know. I love that little splash of color against the lace and the denim. Pretty happy with how that turned out. So I'm going to finish stitching this down, and I'll just kind of show you what I am doing here, what I decided to do to attach these flowers onto the back, because it's a little bit, maybe it's a little bit different. So the first thing was just to pull a piece of thread. Now, you might notice here that I stitched over these flowers in several different colors, kind of a darker gold, a lighter yellow, a whitish yellow, just to give it more interest. And I like that. I did that a little bit with the centers too. These are French knots. I did it in a couple of different shades of brown. There was a dark brown and then like this shade of brown, and it just gives it a little more dimension. I left the leaves painted. I don't know, I might go through again and we'll see. But what I've been doing with attaching, because what I did was I just took this and I handheld it and I stitched it. Now, it would have been a good idea to attach this to another little piece of fabric, a piece of sheet or something else, because it can pucker, but I didn't mind because it just kind of gave it a little bit more dimension. I'm not really worried about it. If I wanted it to be totally straight, you would need another layer. But so what I'm doing now is I'm just stitching this onto my journal. Now, because I have this layer, the denim, then I actually have some fleece in between to make it heftier. And then I have this layer, and then obviously I'm trying not to stitch into my pocket here. Okay, so I have my hand in here. Now, could I have sewn these on before? Sure, but I didn't know then what I wanted the back cover to look like. And I don't know, with these books, I often will just kind of embellish after it's constructed, and it doesn't really hurt anything. So what I'm doing is I'm just coming up through the fabric and I'm coming down on the edge. Now with these, I was able to bring the edge of the petal really to the edge of the fabric without it coming undone at all, because I just cut these out after I stitched them. And then I really tacked it down so that the edge almost curls under. And that worked really well on those. These, I don't know, the stitching is a little frayed around the edge, so I didn't want to get too close. But you can see that I'm just sort of running it to the very edge and then going under my applique here. See that? Now, you could do a white and really give it like a highlight, or like I'm doing, a little bit of a lighter yellow is giving that kind of same effect. And as you see, I'm sort of going under the frayed edge, and I'm tucking that back. It's kind of disappearing underneath. Is anyone going to notice? Of course not. But I just think that'll secure it really well, and it'll keep it from fraying. You know, again, this is on the cover. Definitely want it to be a little more sturdy, but it's a journal cover, so it's not like, you know, it's not a purse. It's not going to get handled every day in a serious way out and about, so it gets a little more protection. But anyway, I'm just working this around the edges. And I thought about that as I stitched, you know, so you'll see that I have different colors in long and short stitch. For anyone who's newer, long and short stitch are just kind of straight stitches, but you do them, one of them maybe this long and then a shorter one, and then a long one and a shorter one. It allows you to get really great texture, and it also makes it so, you know, as you can see here, the colors tend to blend pretty well. So I'm just going to continue along the edge. And as you can see, like, even though I wasn't at the edge really, I kind of am now because I'm tucking those white bits under. Now, I'm not really worried about here where the white goes down between the petals. It'll stay, it's fine. So what I've been doing is then just kind of working my needle back up to the edge underneath. And I'm not poking through all the layers there. It's just kind of running under the thread and under the fabric. Back up on the edge, and now I'm going to come up back around again. And again, this is just giving a little bit of dimension, and then it's also securing my applique to the edge. So friends, what are you working on today? I hope that you've gathered some sort of stitching project or some other fun creative pursuit, and that you have a minute to relax. I am planning for this trip and have only just begun to pack. Some friends and I were talking. So are you a months out packer or like days out, weeks out? I was talking to my friend and I said, well, no, I'm still wearing my clothing. I can't pack it all. I'm leaving for 10 days. So yeah, I'm still actively wearing the clothing that I am taking with me, some of it. Now, I'm going to do all the laundry tomorrow, and then I'll still have a couple of days, so, you know, not right at the last minute. But she said, do you have a capsule wardrobe? I'm like, no, I just don't have a lot of clothes. That's funny. I don't know. Actually, I have more, obviously, than I wear, as most of us do, but I have been getting rid of a lot of things that I don't wear, so that's been good. Making space, getting rid of clutter. So anyway, so I will be doing laundry and finalizing my packing list. I'm excited too, because here in Florida, we're starting to get warmer again, heading into, like, we've passed second winter, we're heading into real spring. And I think it's going to be in the 70s, maybe even get up to 80. Have no idea in Celsius what that is. You'll have to ask Google. But yeah, it's getting warmer. But I get to go to England, where I think it's in the 50s. So did I get a sweater to take with me? Oh, why, yes, I did. It's super cute. And it was on clearance because here, who wants a sweater, right? Exactly. So sweater is coming with me and it's super cozy. Okay, so I am still going around. Now, note, these little leaves, obviously not going to cover those up, not going to the edge. So I'm just coming to the edge of the petal and stitching a few stitches around there, again, to applique this down. And I will probably end up going around the very edge with some white thread to secure it, just so it doesn't get caught up and start fraying. But I'm still going, I'm still doing this so that all the petals look the same. I think I might be too close to the end of my fabric here. And I'll show you what I've been doing. I don't know if this is a good way to do it, but what I've been doing is just running my thread under the petals, like that kind of thing. Ooh, we're pretty close to the end of this thread. And then maybe once more. Now she's pretty tight in there. And then I'm just snipping that off. I'm finding that that's working just fine. The threads are tightly under there. No need to knot or anything. It's just under the stitches. So that seems to be working all right. Okay, just kind of tugging on this. Fabric is wonderfully forgiving, so I don't want it to be too tucked up. So yeah, that's working great. Let's see. Yeah, and that's where I started. So she is already good. Okay, wait, let's see. I started again over here, so I do need to secure this one petal. Now, this is not exactly the same shade that I was working with. It does not matter. I've got a couple different shades of yellow obviously going on. And notice that I'm going to run this under the applique, and it's going to come up somewhere down toward the inner edge, and then my knot is just going underneath the fabric, and then it'll be hidden when I go over it. Now, if you had like a neater style on here, you could certainly just do a very tiny running stitch along the edge and secure it down, or, you know, however you usually do an applique, you could use those stitches. But I like how this works so easily into a long and short stitch and makes it, I don't know, it blends really well, and it gives it even more texture, which I am really enjoying about this thread painting. Now, if thread painting is kind of a new idea to you, once you discover it, so many ways to use it in your projects. I think you can think of thread painting almost as sketching with thread. And as I had, you know, you might have a sheet, or you might have some extra fabric from a dress, or you might have a pillowcase, or just some fabric you picked up that you liked that was like quilting fabric or something. Anything that has a little design in it, like these. See how I've added a little bit of French knots to the centers of these? It just makes it fun. I did think about thread painting these little flowers, but instead I went with this design. And I think now thread painting them, it's a possibility, but it might be too much. And then I did add these little centers. I could do some lazy daisy stitches over the top of that, and I may still do that. This little journal, as I said, is coming with me on a very long plane ride on Friday. And if I need something extra to do, you know, that's the beauty of having fabric things to put stuff in, is that you can always continue working on them. And, you know, I don't think that messes it up. I think that more can be really pretty on some of these pieces. I'm at that point in preparing for this trip when I just need to write everything down. It's not that I'm worried I'll forget something as much as I need it out of my brain. Do any of you do that? I just need it to be out on paper, and so I can free up some mental space for the other things I need to think about. So I think I'm going to do that a bit later. I have an event tonight. It's a week where I'm photographing two pretty major events, but tonight's event is an awards dinner. So aside from getting a lot of photos of people dressed up and having fun, my main thing is to get great photos of the speakers and the awards recipients themselves. And I know a lot of these people, so that's always a joy to photograph people I know and celebrate with them. So I shall do my job as the person who documents, which is something I really love. Being a historian at heart, I love taking care of the history of fabric, and I love taking care of the evolving history of our community by taking photos. It's fun. All right, so that little flower is finished. Look how cute that is. And I thought about cutting off the flowers, but I think they just add a little extra dimension. And I don't mind that they're kind of sunk down into the fabric. This is kind of a weird shaped book. It's definitely, you know, it's almost square, a little bit rectangular this way, a little bit horizontal, but I just liked it. And I'll show you one thing here is, so I have this piece of denim and I folded it around to make a cover. Well, it wasn't quite long enough. But instead of putting a little piece of fabric at the end, what I did was cut it down here, and I did an insert of a coordinating little piece of fabric with little flowers that I thought looked really pretty with it. And so then I have, kind of this illusion that it is the perfect size, but this inset of flowers actually adds to it. And then I stitched this piece of old lace over it that was in the stash that Nan gave me. Love it. And it gives incredible dimension to the outside. So that turned out really well. Okay, what else does this little baby need? I am going to stitch this down. I may do that later. The question is whether I want a fifth element. Here's the thing. I'm going back and forth on whether to stitch this little flower, which is blue, or to put something else over it, like a Suffolk puff or something, and tie it in with maybe some different colors that are in and around. And I could even do more than one if I wanted. Or I could do a smaller one that is the same colors. Or I could do this one in blue. I could just stitch it up in a coordinating blue thread. And then I could give this a blue flower. Or I could give each of these bouquets a blue flower. I don't know if I like the placement of those. What do you think? Are you yelling at me? Or not yelling, but suggesting what you would do. I don't know. I don't want to go with a whole different thing here, I don't think. I wonder if... I think I might want the blue. Let's see. So my ironing background, my little wool mat, is over at my other little work area for ironing. I have been loving my newly organized space. Perhaps I will do a little studio tour, is overstating it, but I could show you around with how I've organized all my linens. I don't know. Tell me below if you'd be interested in that. But one of the things I did was set up an ironing area right behind my desk, and that has been very cool. All right, now the question is, do I want to use the same long and short stitches that I used there, or do I want to change it up? I don't know that I want to do a lazy daisy stitch, because I feel like that, I don't know, it's just very different. I could do a chain stitch. And put my hand in here behind. I think that the simplicity of just some straight stitches is going to be what that little flower wants. You'll notice too that I'm not really worried about completely covering all of the painted area. If it is if it's all covered, that's fine. But if some of it shows through, that's fine. And I like that my little leaves are uncovered, because I think that works well. Do you go in phases of which stitches you like to use? I feel like I do. I was doing a lot of chain stitching, which I do like. No, I don't know. I think I'm doing, I always am doing French knots because I just really love their texture. But I think I'm tending more toward long and short stitches right now when it comes to filling in things. Seems to be working better with some of the styles I'm doing. I was listening to Create and Craft with Christine today, and she was, let's see, what were you doing over there? It was a, not a, I think it was a Boolean stitch is what it's called, where you line up some knots on your needle and then kind of lay them down. And that's a very cool stitch. I might do that with some things. Oh, and then I know what else she was doing. I think she was doing some weaving, but like in the pattern of a petal. And it looked really pretty, and it gave it a lot of dimension. And one of the things she was doing was using wool, or like a heavier cotton than I usually do. So I'm gonna maybe experiment with some of that. I have some over here. I have some yarns. I would just call it yarn. It's not, I don't think it's actually, that one is wool, not wool. I think it might be acrylic. I'm not sure. But yeah, it just gives it a different look. I've also been watching some, I don't know, I get random YouTube videos of like how to stitch different kinds of flowers and things like that. And I text the link to myself if I'm just on my phone, because then I can look it up later more easily. Okay, so that one, just added a little bit of dimension to that little blue flower. I think that's kind of cute. I don't want to just stitch a blue flower right onto that yellow floral fabric. So I'll think about that. I think that might be done, or I could add a little bit. I could add another one of these flowers from the dress. Just cut it off and stick it on there. That would be a possibility. I love how that turned out though. It's just sweet. It looks really pretty. There are other blue flowers in this pattern. So you want to think about scale, and you want to think about like the direction. That flower might fit well. Might be a little big. These are definitely, this one's too big. This one might be going a different direction. This one got stuck into the seam. A little set of 3 flowers. Maybe just the top one. So one option would be to cut them all out, but I think I might just cut out this top one. And I'll leave a little space around it because I kind of like those leaves. I think, let's see then, does it want to be with the other blue flower in the middle? And then it kind of blends into that green. I kind of like that. Now I could either stitch it and then stitch it on, or what makes a little bit more sense to me at this stage is just to stitch that directly on. And I may have to come back with a couple more stitches on the white part, but I think this will work okay. So again, I'm just going to come up with one little stitch. And I'm just going to secure it while while I'm stitching on. If I were using a variegated thread on this, I probably would stitch close to the center and then go around the outsides so that it's not just like one half the flower is one color and half of it is something else. You could do that for certain, but I do kind of like how one of the things I did with this was just doing some parts of it kind of out toward the edges, maybe in a different shade, because that's kind of what flowers do. Or at least some of them, some of my favorites. So what's your favorite flower? Mine are Casablanca white lilies. They smell amazing. And I did name my daughter Lily, although she's named after her great-grandmother. But I love lilies. They're just beautiful flowers. I do love a lot of different flowers. It is true. So now I'm kind of coming up over the edge like I did on the back, and I'm not worried about it. It's going to secure this little fabric to this other piece. And some of the fabric's getting a little caught. That doesn't bother me. As long as it stays on there, I think I'm going to be fine. I complete that stitch and then come up in the middle. I find that starting at the top part of a petal can go a little better, and then it just comes down on either side. If I start on one side and then go up to the middle and then come down, I don't know, they end up feeling a little off. But if I start here in the middle and come up to the tallest point, and then I gotta remember to hold it there. Come to the tallest point, then go back to the center, especially with something with this small stitches. That seems to work pretty well, unless it gets caught. Come on. There we go. Do you ever lose which side is the tail? Yeah. That's what was happening. Okay, and then come up next to it, and then on the other side, I don't know. So many ways to stitch, right? All right, so almost finished with this. Now I could put a little French knot in the center of both of these blue flowers like I did for the yellow ones. I think that might look nice, and it would tie them all together a little better. All right. Okay, so those are secured. Now, I think it may actually end up needing some white thread to go around the edge. So I do think I'll run a little French knot up in the center of these two flowers. I think twice around the needle on these will be plenty. I think I was doing 3 times around the needle for the sunflowers because I wanted them to be big and loopy. But this one will be just a little smaller. Let's see, do I want multiple? Oop. think I'm just going to take one extra stitch and pull it down to kind of bring that one over a little bit. There we go. That's the thing about French knots. If they ever don't land exactly where you want, if you're doing a bigger one, you can always put another stitch up through them and then tug it over to where you would like it. Okay, I'll do a little one on this one. I'm going to go straight down through. There she goes. Yeah, that'll work. Just do a little knot underneath in order to finish that off. I think that's cute. Added a little bit more interest. I'm going to trim a little bit off of it. Okay, then I'm just going to come in and secure some of these edges down. And then I'll just stitch around the edge. I don't think I'm going to do anything fancy here. I'm just going to come in and stitch around the edge. Not anything fancy, just something basic to tap it down. I'm going with a slightly off-white thread. It doesn't really matter, but I think that sometimes a slightly off-white thread just kind of hides better. This is very fraying fabric, and so you can almost come behind and then up a little bit closer to the flower and turn that over. I don't want to stitch over these little leaves, but if I need to be a little bit close to them, it's fine. Again, it's just a little detail. I think that looks really cute. And I like it better now than when I just put down this really bright fabric. I like the fabric. I think it's fun to have a pattern, you know, and not have every page be really plain. But it just needed breaking up. And I think that putting these embroidered flowers on it really did the trick. Plus, every time I look at this page, I will remember that I conquered the hemming of my daughter's dress. These flowers on it, which I get is the simplest thing. It wasn't the hemming that was art, obviously. That was easy. It was the fact that my bobbin, like, if any of you have used a sewing machine, you know how you have the lower bobbin? Well, mine, every time I sewed, the top would be fine, and the bottom would be this giant wad of thread. Not a fan, not any idea what was happening. So I watched a YouTube video on resetting my bobbin, because that is what a newbie I am. And I fixed it. And then I thought to myself, you know what? That tension setting on top could be a problem. And then I asked, I believe, Google or maybe ChatGPT, if I'm getting a giant wad of thread when I'm sewing on the bottom bobbin, what is happening? And it did mention that the tension could be an issue. So I put the tension lower and that fixed it. So that's what the problem was. So I learned something. Yay, me, learning. So I did learn, and I was able to successfully do it. And not only that, the hem was pretty straight, which I was incredibly proud of, because I remember hems from my childhood not always being straight. My mom was a great seamstress, but you know, sometimes it just gets wonky. It depends on the fabric. So I was very, very thankful that the hem was finished, the hem was straight, and I conquered it. And now I will see these little flowers that I stitched and that are super cute, and I will think, yep, I conquered that sewing machine. I conquered the hem. Yay me. Okay, I'm loving that. And then, so I'll just notice, this is just a little square of fabric, and what I did was I cut it so that you can easily slip things in and out of here. So it has that little cutout there. Most of them are just straight across pockets, some small, some bigger. This is asking for something, but I haven't decided yet what it is. And I may just leave it for now, because as I said, this will travel with me, and if it wants to get worked on in the future, you know, it's a fun little extra project. I do think, though, that I will go ahead and stitch down these leaves on the outside, and make sure they don't flap around. So I will be right back. Well, I'm really enjoying Kate and the Nest's new prompt, and this month I think I actually may create a pouch. I did a January pouch, and then the last couple months I've thought about them, but then I've been doing so many other projects that I've missed them. So I may go back because I did have some great ideas for some of the other pouches. But the April one, you'll have to go and check it out if you have not yet. But I do think I'm going to be starting that maybe while I'm gone, or maybe next week, or like when I get back. I love that. I think that's the perfect little bookend ending, and I love how the little page sticking out brings that yellow back in. Very happy with this journal. And as I said, it may not be finished yet. That's the fabulous thing about a fabric journal. I did think that putting a little piece down this section, whether it's lace or crochet or something, that might look cool. Actually, I had a piece going right here. I thought laying something like that kind of in the spine would be good. Maybe even a loop kind of thing that I could tuck a pen into. That was one thought I had. So we'll see. Might do something there. And I kind of feel like this page is asking for something interesting. So we'll see. Might have more work to be done on it. And I may end up coming up with a closure. I don't know. We'll see on that too. I did a closure a while back where basically I had a button on either side and then I wrapped something around it. But I kind of love how this looks. I could also, of course, do a closure from the inside. It's so nice and floppy that it may not need one. I may end up just, tying something around it like I did for Lily's journal. So we'll see. All right, that's where I am for now. I think that'll be a good stopping place. And I look forward to seeing you again soon in the studio. So I hope you have fun being creative. Bye-bye.